Welcome to another episode of Pistons of Fury. In this episode I make a custom, on the cheap, but quality looking gauge panel for my 1966 Mustang coupe. Okay, so here's where we are. This is my old instrument panel, or my old gauge panel for the dash cluster. This is a metal piece that actually is part of the stock assembly. It just kind of goes behind it and holds the whole assembly in place. The way the stock cluster is kind of set up is that there's also this plastic lens which goes in between those two, so it all kind of just sandwiches together, along with the stock gauges, which are these guys here. So I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently, like you probably guessed. I'm not going plain Jane instrument cluster on this thing. So one of the things I really like about instrument clusters in general, I guess total geek out here on instrument clusters just for a second, is like on some of the old Porsches and some of the old racing centric cars, one thing you'll notice is that, and even on modern cars that those companies make, the clusters are very driver and kind of race car centric and oriented. So what I'm going to be doing here is actually putting a tach right front and center, and I'm going to have my vital gauges like fuel, oil pressure, water temp, and volts kind of sitting right next to it. So basically everything I need, it's all front and center. Most importantly, the revs are front and center. In terms of speedometer, I'll probably get some kind of aftermarket digital GPS thing that'll just broadcast a little LED light up on the windshield or something like that. I'm not super worried about that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be modifying some of these original pieces, because if you know anything about Mustangs and the aftermarket support for this, they do sell something that is like an ABS piece. It kind of is supposed to work with aftermarket gauges, but if you read the reviews on that piece, it's not very well constructed. It doesn't align the gauges correctly, so I would caution against buying that. I haven't purchased one. I haven't wasted the money on that. I did read the reviews. So what I'm going to be doing is actually modifying this this support piece in the back. I'm going to be drilling out these holes to support some nice, I guess you can't see that, these VDO gauges that I bought. They're pretty cheap. I think it's the Classic Series. I'll put the link in the description of the video. But they kind of have like an old style look, not a whole lot of flashy branding, nothing that looks modern like a lot of the autometer stuff. So I just wanted something plain that didn't distract from the actual, period correct look of the car, or what I think is period correct. And then for the tachometer, I actually have this old auto gauge tach that works perfectly fine. Did not like the gauge face. It just looks too modern and cheesy and cheap, because that's auto gauge, that's what it is. So I'm going to be actually creating a new gauge face, and maybe as part of this video I'll show you guys how I'm doing that. We'll see if I have time. But anyway, the focus of this episode is going to be modifying this back piece, getting this support put back together, and getting this gauge cluster assembled. So I'm going to get started probably by seeing what I can do to cut these holes out and fit the gauges into this backing panel.
To look at things in gloom, 50 strings are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hanging snow. And since to look at things in gloom, 50 strings are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hanging snow. Things in bloom, 50 strings are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hang with snow. And since to look at things in bloom, 50 strings are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hang with snow.
All right, so here is the panel kind of coming into shape. Got all the gauges kind of placed in that. Used basically a 2-inch or 2.5-inch bimetal hole saw. Makes the holes big enough so you can actually get in there and you have some adjustability. And it's hard to see with the reflection of the sunlight. So yeah, that's basically what it's going to look like, and it's going to bolt up using the stock hardware in the back. And because of this bracket that I'm using, actually the turn signals and everything are going to bolt up just fine. I do have to figure out something to do about the high beam indicator, so I need to figure that out. But yeah, I'm just waiting on, as you probably noticed, I'm waiting on one of my gauges to get here. So as soon as that comes in, I'll be able to just fine tune the placement of all of these and get those put into place. And then when I get this done, I can just stick it in the car because it uses all the factory connections. Well, nope, that's a lie. These gauges actually came with, let me see, the water temp gauge, which was actually the most expensive out of all of these, came with its own sending unit. So I need to see how that compares to the one I currently have in the car. And then the final gauge is the oil pressure, the one that I'm missing. I'm assuming that comes with a sender. It may not though, so we'll have to see if that works with the stock sender. I think I ordered the right one, so that it should. But yeah, other than that, everything is should take the stock signal. I verified the fuel gauge will. I know that has the correct ohm rating. Yeah, so then I just have to make up the face for my tach, and we should be good to go. Okay, so where we are now is I have all my gauges finally. The rest showed up in the mail, or the remaining gauge showed up on the front doorstep, so that's good. I have them all mounted in this back panel. So let's see, you can see it there. So we have fuel, volts, water, and oil. These are all just the VDO, I think, classic style gauges. Typography looks pretty good. I think it'll match pretty well with the style. I'm still working on making that the face for the tach, so I will get to that a little later. I still have to find some transparency paper that I can print out on. So I was going to go ahead and start with the wiring of this. So basically on the back of these VDO gauges, you have a couple different tabs for positive, minus, and then a signal. I guess, yeah, so the signal for the fuel would be a just current, so we're measuring ohms, so this comes directly from the sending unit in the gas tank. And likewise on the water, we have a similar signal wire. It's going to come from the sensor on the engine, and same with the oil pressure, that's going to come from your oil pressure sender. So it's basically pretty simple wiring. I'm going to bridge everything together for these gauges, so we're going to do plus minus, plus minus, plus minus, and then plus minus on the tach. Pull all them together, do a ground. We'll ground into the chassis right behind the dash. And then one other thing I'm doing is I have these sockets that came in the VDO gauges, which are the standard 194 type bulb. So it's just this little flat push-in style bulb. So all the gauges have that, including the tach. So that's going to be pretty easy. I ordered some green bulbs on Amazon. They're basically just these filament style. I didn't get the LED because I don't want the super bright neon like tuner green. I wanted more like an incandescent green that you would get, which is more period correct to this car. That's one of the things I liked about the car. Driving it at night, you know, maybe the lighting isn't as good as a modern car, but typically when I drive a car like on the highway at night, I'm turning the interior gauges down anyway because it's too bright. I like to focus on the road. So anyway, I ordered some green bulbs, so all of these are going to get these green bulbs, and then I'll still have original bulb sockets for the turn signals and the high beam. So turn signals should be pretty straightforward. I'm gonna enlarge in these holes so that the original bulb, whatever these are called, sockets fit in here. So the turn signals are no problem, and then the last thing I need to worry about is the high beam. I need to figure out something to do with that because in the original speedometer for this car, which you can see right here, there's a little hole that's kind of drilled through from the factory, and then on the back of that is basically just a red filter that's taped over there, and they had this little plastic piece where you screw in a bulb of normal color and it shines through the red, and that lets you know when your high beam is on. So I need to figure out something to do with the high beam. May not be a big deal. I might just skip it and I'll know that when the lights are high on the outside of the car that that's on. So anyway, I need to figure that out. But for now, I'm just going to get started on the wiring here. It's pretty basic wiring, so I'm just going to do that and see where we go. Alright, so here's where I got for this episode. Pretty far along actually. So I have all of my gauges in. I've got the tach kind of positioned, but I made a big mistake and actually cut too much of the bezel off the front of the tach. And now I don't have enough room to place the lens and my new bezel around that. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do about that. I do have this other piece of the tach which still goes on that I could cut to make like a new outer bezel for it. So I just need to figure that out, but that's a minor detail. So how I have this wired is, oops, drop that, talk about that in a minute. So the way this is wired is I basically have everything grounded together. So all the grounds tie into one, which is there for the gauges. And then these gauges, the VDO gauges, actually have a separate unit for the light bulb. So I have all the grounds for there into another ground. I'm just going to ground both of those to the chassis. I merged them all together. I could have done like a distribution block or something like that. It probably would have been a little cleaner, but number one, I didn't have that. And number two, this just seemed easier. I didn't want to get too fancy with it. So what I'm going to do here is basically I'll create another connector. I'll bridge it into here through there. And then that connector will actually be of this style. So if I ever need to remove the panel, it's easy in, easy out. So let's see, all the reds are power, black is ground, white is lighting, because that seems to be how the chassis is wired, so I'm going to stick with that. And then each gauge, well, almost all the gauges will have their own signal wire. The volts kind of does its own thing. And then let's see, where are we here? Oil pressure has its own, water temp has its own, and fuel has its own. So that's how it's going to be set up. And then this thing I just dropped on the ground is actually I don't know if you can see that, yeah. It's a transparency. So in Illustrator, I actually designed a new tachometer face, although I found out that upon printing it that my inkjet printer sucks, has really crappy resolution, so I need to go to FedEx or something and get them to print it for me on like a nice color laser jet, and then I think we'll be good to go there. But did that in Illustrator. I copied the old school Smith style gauge from a MGB. So if you look that up on eBay or Google Images, you can see what it's like, but it basically has this cool red and yellow color for the RPM range, so I really like that. I tried to use an old style font. It looks like it should match pretty well with the VDO gauges, so I think once all that's put together, that will look pretty good. So here, if I do this and that, you can kind of see how it starts to come together. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm going to be looking at. So as I mentioned before, replacing the speedometer with the tach. I'm going to do something else with the speedometer. I really don't care how fast or not fast I'm going. What I really want to see is that rev counter front and center. So that's where I am, and by next episode I should have all this reassembled and hopefully in the car. So that's what I will be working on next. Oh, and I got a whole bunch of other parts. Lighting is not right in the shop to show you guys, but I'll try anyway. So yeah, I got a bunch of interior parts, glove box, door stuff. I got brand new door panels, which I'm excited about. I got the window felts, so lots of little miscellaneous stuff. I didn't get to do as much as I wanted this week just because my wife's car broke and I had to fix that. So yeah, that was it. Yeah. Oh, also a little surprise coming next week, but we'll get to that in the outro. So yeah, gauge panel, Mustang. Alright, so that's a wrap for this episode. Got pretty far on the gauge panel, not as far as I'd like, but like I said, my wife's car had an issue, so I had to basically take the radiator out of that and replace the whole radiator, cooling system, and all that. That's actually going to be a separate video that's more like raw style, so I'm going to put that up whenever I get done editing it. So what's next on this car? So gauge panel is almost at a place where it can be installed. I'm going to hopefully finish that up sometime this week for the next episode. And then next episode, I want to focus solely on getting the interior put back together. I think I have all the parts I need finally to get this car put back together. So I want to get it put back together, and who knows, we may get back to starting it and see how this thing runs after sitting for a number of months. And then finally, next episode, probably the next couple episodes, we are going to have a special guest. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, throw me a like, subscribe to the channel. We're almost on the road with this car, and I have a bunch of other projects stacked up behind this, so plenty more to come. And yeah, see you next week.